Today's guest is Theresa Smith. Here's our Job Talk with an entrepreneur.
Welcome to the Job Talk podcast, where we talk with people who love their jobs. Our guests open up about their challenges, surprises, and secrets to success in their industries. Through conversation, we explore their careers, past work experiences, and the education that got them to where they are now.
Theresa, did you always know that you were going to be an entrepreneur or a business owner?
No. I thought I make a really good, I thought my dream job growing up was probably more like executive assistant. I think I would cater to someone who really knew what they were doing and like keeping them on track and organized. And I didn't really realize at the time how much that would apply to what I'm doing now, but it was a lot of like, I wouldn't mind like dressing up really nice and going to work, and then, you know, like doing what executive assistants did in the obviously late 90s, which was like pick up dry cleaning and make appointments and kind of do that. And that was kind of just my thought process, is kind of what I would be or something along those lines. But mostly I think I did it for the fashion, not necessarily for the job, although the job kind of was exciting. I wanted to work with professionals. I wanted to feel professional. I wanted to be able to do that kind of stuff. But I always thought I would be more of like, more of an assistant or more of someone to help a professional in that regard, not necessarily own my own business, but more be a support to the person who owns the business.
Okay. What was your first post-secondary experience like after you left high school?
I didn't go to post-secondary, actually. So
you didn't?
Mm-mm. So I took some courses when I wanted to be a wedding photographer. And I did a bunch of courses through, I can't even remember. I don't even think the school exists anymore, which is really sad. But yeah, I took some courses through there, and then there was a couple of people that were in the photography department at NAIT, actually. And I took some courses through, I think it was housed through McBain Camera. So some people that were like teaching at NAIT, they would teach there. And so I took some courses through there as well. But that was like as much post-secondary as I took. I did a lot of like on-the-job training for what I did. Post-secondary was never in the cards for me. I never even thought about it, didn't want to go to post-secondary. I only wanted to learn about things that would apply directly to what I wanted to do at the time.
Yeah.
The opportunity certainly was there, but the marks probably weren't there from high school. And so then I just kind of kiboshed it right away and was like, you know what, like I'm not interested in going to school. And I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically. And I didn't want to waste my time and money going into post-secondary without having a plan. I'm not necessarily a superstar planner, but I do like to have some sort of end goal. And that was, I didn't have an end goal. So kind of just fell into working instead.
Okay. And how long was your photography career? Was this a long career?
So photography was, I think, 4 years. I was a wedding photographer. I owned Fresh Light Studio, which is no longer going, so don't Google it. So I did, family, mostly wedding photography. I really loved wedding photography, and that was kind of like a passion of mine. And I still really do like photography, which is like before Instagram kind of became a thing. It was really exciting, and I would post, we had blogs were a thing. And so we kind of did that, and I really loved it. And a couple of friends that I had were doing it as well. And it was really good. And then as I was kind of transitioning out of photography, that was just one of the jobs between high school and where I ended up dental, but photography was right up until I moved into dental.
Okay. And why did you feel that you wanted to transition out of photography?
I didn't, actually. And I joke about this all the time. I got tricked into working into dental. So my my best friend is a dentist, and his wife was supposed to be working in the practice, and she got pregnant, and so then she couldn't And I had worked in optical for a while previous to being a wedding photographer. And so he said, why don't you come into the practice and like take, just see what you can do and if it's something that you can help us with. And so then I did, and then it was supposed to be just 1 day a week. And then it, turned into like 2 days a week. And then he's like, can you work full time? And so then I ended up working for him for 8 years.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's kind of how I fell into dentistry in that regard. Yeah.
Sorry, and what was your position? What were you doing for him for 8 years?
So I worked reception for a couple of years and just kind of like helped build the recare systems and patient care systems in the practice, insurances, billing, making sure that patients were feeling cared for and were booked back into the practice. So I just basically was like extreme amounts of customer service, and it was a very small practice that he had purchased. And it was just like trying to get it off the ground and get it grown. And so it was started off just 4 ops. And then we grew that over the 8 years from 4 ops to 10 ops. And I became an ops manager at year 2. And then I just continued to grow the practice. And it was a pretty like cool experience. And because we were really good friends, I got to be really involved in what was going on. And he would share a lot of information. And I just buckled down and learned a tremendous amount about dentistry over that 8 years, and then really learned that all of the kind of jobs that I had leading up to it going into dentistry were able to apply into this role. And then it's kind of, I just really excelled. And yeah, and then that was kind of my start into dentistry. And that clinic is still going. They added another op, and they're still an amazing practice. So I really love that clinic. I still get my dentistry done there.
Okay.
So it's really good.
Well, I'm going to ask you about what your business does and what you do in your day-to-day work. While you were going through your 8-year career working with him, did you think that was going to be your career, or did you start to have an idea that you were going to take off and do this as a business for yourself?
So I would say about a year or maybe 2 years before I left, we had our last child, and I went on mat leave. And then when I came back from mat leave, I decided that like I needed to figure out what I was doing, because it was just a kind of a job up. I mean, I was good at it, but it was just a job up until that point. And then I decided, you know what, like this kid came late in life, and we just kind of were just not like plugging along, but I was like, well, I need to do something. This is, gave me a chance to kind of reevaluate what I was doing. And then I decided, you know what, like I've always talked about doing consulting or like training, but I just didn't feel like I had enough experience, enough talent, enough clout, I guess, to go out on my own. And so then I left that practice and went into corporate dentistry, where I took over a clinic and kind of rehabbed it because it was a bit of a hot mess. And so then kind of fixed it all up, got it back up and running. And I did that in about 6 months. And so then I kind of proved to myself, no, I can do this and I'm good at it. And so then that was kind of when I took this corporate job, I was very much driven at that point. Like, I'm going to make this work. I need to make this work. I really want to be, this is my career now, and this is what I'm going to do. And that's my end goal. And so then I did that, moved up, and then I managed 6 practices at the same time.
Wow.
And that was hard. And we did that during COVID, and you know what COVID was like, and COVID like during dental was a little crazy, and we had to like redo operations and systems and IPC, which is like infection control and all that kind of stuff. And so I had to write manuals for people and protocols for people for the 6 clinics I had, plus the corporation had 16 clinics, so 10 other clinics in different provinces. We had to accumulate them across different provinces, and I just gained a wealth of experience. And then I decided that I needed to I proved myself that I'm capable of doing all of this stuff and I could do it well. And I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go out on my own and kind of just do this on my own. And so I broke off and I manage a specialty clinic for root canals, which I know everyone loves.
Well, it's better now. It's not like the olden days when it was extremely painful, right?
Yeah, I mean, now we just block freeze and you feel nothing and it's great.
Exactly.
And, specialist root canals are a lot faster because that's all they do all day, if you can imagine. So they can rip through a root canal in like 20, 30 minutes, whereas most general are a little bit longer. And we use microscopes and we have fancy equipment and it's just a lot more success through specialty. And so we did specialty, and I still to this day manage that practice, and it's wonderful. And I love that clinic. Like, it's my favorite. It's amazing. The people there are so wonderful, and it's really good. And then got it kind of like ramped up and going like it should have been because it was having trouble coming out of COVID. And then the endodontist and I have struck a deal that I could do this on the side whenever I wanted, as long as his clinic was running good, and we're good to go. So then I started off on my own, and it was just like a nice breezeway into like opening up the training and education and systems and operations that we do for other practices. And it's been just going wonderful ever since. So yeah, we've really done quite well.
Okay, and so what is your business name, and can you describe the services that you provide?
Sure. So my business name is Optimized Dental. I'm a co-founder of it. So I have a business partner and she's amazing as well. And we have one employee who was also an office manager for a long time and administrative for surgical clinic in Edmonton. And she's awesome. And we basically will go into practices and what I like to call rehab. So sometimes they're struggling with systems and protocols, or they're struggling with team members that aren't trained enough or well. And so we'll go in and help train and assist them. We also do business advice, and we'll teach them how to run their business effectively so that they can advance and grow their practice. Because dentistry, most people know, it's private practice. So it is partly healthcare, but it's also privately owned, which means it's still a business. So we teach them the balance of clinical care, which is like taking care of patients. We teach them the balance of culture, which is taking care of their employees and their team members. And we teach them the balance of the business, which is you need that to support the other two. So that's kind of the triad. And we go in and help make sure that the balance is set, and build the systems and structures in place so that practice can grow healthily and not have too many hiccups along the way.
How do you know that your business is going to work, do you think? Like, you come up with the idea, you came up with this idea, and then the next day you start on your journey to build this business.
Yeah,
how do you know it's going to work?
You don't. You really don't. It is the most exhilarating and exciting time of your life, but it is also the most terrifying. And like, it gives me heart palpitations thinking of like what we did. It's like jumping off a cliff, and you might have a bit of a bungee cord, but you don't know if that bungee cord is going to hold. That's what it feels like. And it's good, and it's scary, and it's exciting. And all of that kind of excitement kind of pushes you through because you really have a strong desire to make it work. Yeah. And you just work through issues as they come up, and you kind of build through that. And it's a lot about resilience. You're going to fail at things, and it's going to be terrible. It's going to be so terrible, and you just feel awful. And just picking yourself back up and going, okay, well, what did I learn from that, and how can we move forward, and how do I continue to make this company better, and how do we build this? And you're looking at helping dental teams, but you're also looking at how do I balance my business, and you're also looking at how do I balance my family life, because all those three things come into play. And so you have your own triad that you work with, and And then how do I make sure my employees are staying happy, and how to make sure that my business partner and I are in a healthy situation. There's a lot of things that go on in that. And then also making sure there's enough money to pay everyone, and making sure that there's, like those kind of stresses, making sure the accounting gets done and invoices are done properly. And that all kind of falls, in my spot, and I just have to like work through it. And it's just part of what we do. But it does take a lot of resilience, and it does take a lot of, I want to say, grit,
Yeah.
and determination, and you have to be able to let things go, because
Okay.
some things just don't work out.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, I mean, obviously doubts may enter your mind as you're setting out on your venture. How do you manage feelings of doubt?
The support system. You need a strong support system. So obviously I have a very supportive spouse who's just amazing, and he's always like in my corner, always in my corner. Business partner, always in my corner. And I'm the same for her. We're 100% just like the backup crew, right? Like a West Side Story backup crew. We are there. We got knives. We'll make sure that you feel like you're supportive. And it's the tricky part is it still hurts. Things hurt. You just got to deal with it. But if you are feeling doubt, you just got to like work through it. And doubt sometimes is a mindset. It's just things that you're telling yourself that aren't true. And you have to be able to cipher that out and be like, is this what I'm telling myself because I'm scared? Or is this what I'm telling myself because it's true? And then you just have to decide, no, it's not true. This could work out. This could work out well, and try it. Or if it doesn't work out, then you go, that's fine, we learned, and now we move on. And just to mitigate a bit of risk in the in between, it's all kind of together with that.
Can you remember any specific lessons that you learned? I don't want to call it failures. I don't think.
I failed. It's
but
okay.
You always, when you talk to an entrepreneur, you always hear them talk about learning more from failures than success. So do you have any specific examples of where, okay, we'll call it failed. You failed.
Yeah.
What did you learn from it?
Oh yeah, there's lots of things that I failed at. But I think you're right. There's like learning from it, and it's super important to be able to learn from them, and kind of have that grit. But yeah, no, specifically, I think, there's one particular situation where we were going to go in contract and do infection control protocols for this practice. And we talked to them, and this is, what they wanted. And I let my employee handle it all. And I was like, hey, you can do this. Like, here you go. Just go figure out what they need, and we'll do it that way. And so she went in and like said, this is what you want. Yeah. Okay. This is what we can do. And I was like, okay, we're just going to experiment. Like, because at that point, I wasn't super worried about the contract. Like, we could have it or we could not have it. It was an experiment. We didn't know if we wanted to get into that, but we're just going to try. And so we went in, and, she went in, spent, I think 10, 12 hours doing this thing, and, getting her what she wanted. And at the end, we're like, okay, this is what it is, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, that's not what I wanted. And I was like, okay, so what did you want? And then she's like, well, I wanted this. And I was like, well, if you want that, it's going to be way more expensive because it's a lot more entailed than what you were asking. You specifically asked for this. And then she like just ghosted us. And I was like, okay, so what did we learn from that? Get it in writing, exactly what they want. Make sure that the contract is specific to what we're going to be doing and what we're doing. So it was a bit of a failure, but now I just learn, this is what it is. If you want to do business with me, this is how you do it, and this is what you have to do. And we learned to clean up our act a little bit. I feel like entrepreneurship is just a lot about growing yourself, and maybe that's why a lot of people like it. They're more keen to it, or it seems exciting, because you are constantly having to level up. You don't get a choice. Your market, your people that you cater to, demand a higher level, and the more expensive you are, the higher level you have to be at. And so you're constantly leveling up, and it's just very rewarding to be that, to do that, and kind of get that growth out of yourself.
Can you remember the first time you got paid when you launched your business?
Yeah, it was so great. Me and my business partner did happy dance. Because we got our first contract and it was like 4 months and we were just like, yes, like this is like a long-term contract. We're so excited. And it was like not very much money, but we wrote a big number on there. We're like, oh yeah, like if we get this, we're like golden, right? And the number was like, I know it's like a third of what we charge now, but
Yeah.
I just like laughed because we were just like, oh yeah, if we just like, should we just throw this number out there? We're like, yeah, like, okay. And we like threw it out there and we got it. And we're just like, oh my gosh, like this is the most amazing experience.
Yeah.
And now I still have the check. We have it. We keep it because it's important to us to have our first check. We said at 5 years we're going to get it framed and that'll be our thing. But yeah, it was not very much money now when I look at it, but it was massive first contract for a fair amount of time. And I spent, I think, 3 hours, doing a consultation with them. And like, it was intense, because they had to buy into me, it's different, right? I really had to learn to sell myself. So it was like a lot of work that went into it. We put this massive dollar amount on it and it was really like actually not that big, but yeah, that's what it felt like. We're just like, oh my gosh. And we literally, when we got the contract, we both just like cheered and we were like on a high for days.
So is it framed or is it in a drawer somewhere now?
So it's in our file system.
Yeah.
And at 5 years, we're going to get it framed and hopefully if we have a location by then, we'll have it in the location.
Okay. What year are you in now?
So we're in year 2. So we just finished our first corporate year, but we were in business. We had to incorporate. So before that was another 6 months or something. So yeah, we're about halfway through year 2.
Okay, so that first contract seeds some money into your company, into your business.
Yeah.
What kind of risks were you looking at? Did you have a business loan? Did you have to take a loan out?
No, so we're quite lucky because we don't need a location. We don't need, we have very little overhead overall that we pay for my mileage that I have to drive and my hourly wage when I'm doing in-clinic service. So it's pretty low overhead. And at that time I was still working full time at the endodontist office. So I would just drop out 1 day a week and go see this clinic. And so there was pretty low risk, and that's why we started that way, because I'm a pretty low risk person.
Yeah.
So it was not a lot of overhead, but we did, when we had to finally incorporate because we were making too much money, we incorporated, and then that changed everything. So now we have, multiple banks and holding companies, and we had to learn all the banking system. We have lawyers that work with us, that do contracts. And, we had, like I said, we really had to up our game and do different things, insurance and all this kind of stuff that you just don't think about when you just open your doors and like, we're in a business. And so we had a really aggressive first year learning curve. And I would say we pretty much burnt ourselves out for a short period of time. That holiday in Hawaii that I was talking about earlier couldn't come soon enough. But yeah, it was a lot. It was a very, very intense first year of business because we went from just a sole proprietorship kind of deal to now we went into like corporations and accounting services and all the stuff that we had to do now. So the overhead's a little bit higher now. We have like a proper website. We have, proper accounts for things. Like it's a lot more intense. So that kind of stuff, I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to or know about the entrepreneurship. They just, I started a business, but there's a lot of back end that has to happen all the time. And thank goodness my spouse is really good at accounting because he took over all of that, because I think I'd be like losing my brains.
I would be for sure. Your business partner, how did you get to know your business partner?
So my business partner and I had worked together in the same corporation. So I actually took over her job when she went on mat leave. And then I left before she came, or maybe we worked for like a couple of weeks together when she came back from mat leave. And then I left the company, and then I started my business, and then she came in about 6 months later, when she left that corporation, she came in, and that's when we started our corporation, made a partnership, and did all of that. So
do you guys have similar personalities, or are you opposites and that's what makes your business work so well?
You know, it's kind of funny because we became friends. Actually, mostly we became friends while she was on mat leave, which is funny because usually in that setting you wouldn't connect with someone. But we became friends during her mat leave, and so we have very flattering personalities. I'm pretty chill, laid back, level-headed, like whatever, and she's just like full of ideas and exuberant and like just like gung-ho and really super positive. And I mean, I'm positive too, but just in a more chill, relaxed way.
Yeah.
I'm much more of like a realist and a low-risk person, and she's like jumping off cliffs and like, let's go. And so it's a really happy balance.
Yeah.
When I'm scared to push myself, she's like, you got this, go, like we got this, I can back you up on this, you're smart, you're capable, you know. And when she's like, we're going to do this and this and this, and I'm like, hold the reins, like we need to think about how we're going to make this work, or financially, where is that going to get us? Is that focused on our goals? And so together we are a really good team of how we play each part, and we make sure that the company's safe on both parts.
Did Oprah create that aha moments?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you remember that time when you felt this is going to work? This business is going to sustain?
Yeah, there was definitely, we've had a few. So we had talked about this business before, and then she obviously wasn't in a place to do anything, so I started it, and she was like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And I was like, okay. So I started it and got going on it, and you know, just ideas, that's all it was, just tons and tons of ideas. We didn't even know what we wanted to do. We didn't have an end goal. It was just like, what is the thought process behind this? How are we gonna make this work? Like financially, what can we charge? What's our skill levels? And so we just chatted about tons of stuff, and I kind of bounced a bunch of ideas off of her. And then I was like, okay, so I think we're just going to start doing some training, because people don't have training and they don't know what they're doing. And office managers in dental, there's not really a school you can go to. There's no education services for it. It's literally, you just got to learn on the job, which is what I did for 8 years. And then I moved into corporate dentistry. I had no concept of what needed to be done. I had no concept of the business, like it really needed to be ran. Corporate dentistry opened my eyes to that, the business side of dentistry a lot. And so then I was able to kind of figure that out. And because of that education, I thought people need this. And that's where we came up with the idea that we can train people. And when we had our second contract with a dentist, we said, okay, we want to run this trial project with you, and we're going to do it fairly cheap because we want to see if it works. And I developed an office manager educational program to train you how to become a better office manager and how to run your practice. And talking all the things you need to know in like 5 months. And we would come every week and teach you new things, and then help you work through it, because that's the tricky part, is as an office manager, you're generally alone, doing it on your own. And so we decided we'd build this program that would support them through the training process. And so he's like, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's try it. And we did it. And I mean, it was like halfway through the program. And we said, okay, I asked her some questions about what was going on. And she goes, okay, I think. And she listed out all these things. And I think I can do this. And this is how I'm going to plan it. And I just sat there and I was just like, holy crap, this is working. Like people are getting the information and they're using the information and they're actually seeing success out of it. And I was like, we can train these people and they can run these businesses better just with a little bit of help and a little bit of knowledge that no one else is giving out right now. So that was like a big moment. I remember calling my business partner on the way home from that. I was like, she got it. She got it. You know, like I didn't have to like, you know, she applied everything she learned and she was using it and it was wonderful and she felt confident and successful. And I just got a tremendous amount of pride out of that. And I just thought, okay, this is it. This is what we're doing. We're training people. And that's what it's been ever since. And this is successful. And the dentist is absolutely like just loved it and was like, yeah, no, like it's super great. And now that office manager is still running that practice and is killing it, just absolutely killing it. And we've done it now a few more times and I'm like, hey, this is it. We're doing it. And this is work. Not only does it make us feel good because it's helping dentistry, it makes us feel good because we're doing something good for another person, and then it's successful in our business, so it makes us feel good because we're successful in it too.
Yeah. I think that ties into my next question. What do you enjoy most about being an entrepreneur / business owner?
I think obviously feeling success is the most wonderful and the easiest to grab type of answer for that. But what I do feel like is maybe the feeling I get when I'm able to help someone understand something and feel successful at what they're doing. That's it fills my bucket.
Yeah.
The other one fills, obviously success, it feels part of my bucket, but not like someone being like, I get this, I understand this. And then they're like, thank you for helping me. I'm like, that fills my bucket. That makes me feel good. Like I did something good for that person. I get a tremendous amount of value out of helping people, which is like, I think comes back to that executive assistant, like, not teaching, but like helping people, assisting them, making sure that they are getting where they need to be and everything's organized and laid out. I like it. I like doing that a lot.
Yeah. What are some obvious challenges for you, do you think?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of challenges. Staying on task. Like doing the things that I do. And if you could see my desk around me right now, you'd see why that's an issue.
Don't pan the camera down then.
Yeah, it's quite terrible right now, actually, because I was behind on filing because I just throw everything on my desk. So, staying on task, it's all the back end stuff that's not as fun, right? So going into clinic, I love it. I'm talking to people, training people, that's easy. It's wonderful. I love it. I could do that all day. To be honest, if I could afford to do it, I would probably do it for free. Like, I just love that. I do not love writing up reports. I do not love making sure that documents are spell checked. I hate spell check and I'm a terrible speller. I find difficulty in keeping on top of accounting, making sure that, invoices are done, because none of that is inspiring. None of it's exciting. There's zero dopamine for me in that. So it's a struggle and a challenge. I also find it a struggle and challenge to sell myself. So when I go into consults, I'm not like an overly like egotistical person. So I don't naturally being like, hey, like I can do these things for you. I'm so great at my job, blah, blah, blah. That's not me. So I do struggle with that. And I have to like push myself out of my comfort zone a bit and kind of sell myself. And that's a struggle. That's the part of being an entrepreneur. If you're selling a product, it might be easier, but when you're selling a service, it's a little different. And selling a service, especially one you provide for yourself, that yourself is not as easy.
Yeah. What would you consider to be good qualities of an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah, so grit and resilience for sure. You have to be the type of person that I would say doesn't get affected by things, but can filter through, and that can be taught and learned. You can learn that, how to filter through stuff so that you are not living with it for long periods of time. You have to be able to digest it, feel it, and then let it go. So that's something that is good. If you naturally are good at it, that's great. But most people generally aren't naturally good at that, but you can learn it. That's definitely one. Someone who can self-motivate, someone who can stay organized, because chaos does not lend for good business. You have to stay organized. You have to create a pathway. If you're good at puzzling things out, if you're like looking at this and you're like, oh, like mazes, and you're like, oh yeah, I can figure out how to get there really quickly. Or if you can figure out people management, if you don't have that, you're not going to be a great entrepreneur, because you have to work with people. You either have to sell to someone, they have to buy from you, or you have to have people that do that for you. But either that, people management, you have to be able to read people, and be able to communicate and do well to be an entrepreneur, because otherwise you're not going to be successful that way. So it doesn't mean that you have to be an extrovert. I figured that out too. You just have to be able to communicate well, whether that be written, whether that be verbal communication. Either way, you have to be able to do one or the other well. So I think those are some top ones that I think you have to have. And you have to be able to like find a passion. So find something you really like doing.
How do you define success?
For me, success. Ooh, that's a hard question, actually. I think for me, success isn't about money, prestige. That's not really, power is not my thing. For me, success is I did my job well, and I go home and know I did my job well, and I want to go back and do it again the next day.
Yeah.
That's for me success. Because if I still like it the next day, then I feel like I'm successful at it. If I don't like it the next day, then I might not be successful ever at it, because it's just frustrating. I'm not saying you're not going to have bad days as an entrepreneur, but you should always feel like you can get through it, you can work through this, and you still love the job. If you still love the job, you can get through anything. That's what I mean about passion. If you still love it, you'll get through a lot. You'll put up with a lot to get through it.
What an answer to a question that I just threw at you on the fly. Great job. I guess my last question, and I think you've covered it in some of your answers, but what advice could you give to somebody that has a business idea and is thinking about taking the leap and becoming an entrepreneur?
This is going to be double-sided sword for them. So
okay.
My best advice is to find people in that field that are going to be critical of your idea, and talk to them about it and let them punch holes in your idea. My also best advice is to not take everything they say to heart. Because when we first presented our idea to very critical people who were in the field for multiple years, we're like, I don't know. And then it took us a while to refine, and then we went back and we said, okay, you poked holes, here's the holes we fixed, this is what we want to do. And then they're like, well, maybe. And then we pushed harder and did it again, and then we're like, no, this is it, we can do this, no one's doing this, we can make this work. And we pushed through. So you have to be able to ask for the advice, but not always take all of their critical advice to heart, because if you think it can work through, you can have your dose of reality. There's always going to be risk to everything, but if you think it will work through, push for it and try it. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work, and you try something else. That kind of failure isn't really failure. That's just life. You can just work through that, and you use those experiences to build on other experiences, and you might go 2 or 3 businesses that aren't super successful. Like my wedding photography business wasn't super successful. I loved it. It was good. It paid some bills and we got some extra stuff out of it. But it wasn't super successful. And I didn't love it. I mean, I like it. It's fun, but I didn't love it. It wasn't something that I was like in love with. Yep. So you might go through a few things, and that's okay.
That is great advice. Thank you for that. And congratulations on your business and working in a field that you're passionate about. So I'd just like to thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Theresa.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been super great. And I love what you're doing, because I, like you, struggled through that whole high school. What am I going to do? And I think this is fantastic for your listeners, and just if someone, gets a little bit out of this, it's perfect. Just ideas are great, and it will be very helpful for anybody that listens to your podcast.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Job Talk podcast. For more information, please visit us at thejobtalk.com.